Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So I'm going to talk to you about the evolution of our values. Yani, what do we hold valuable, or what ideas do we hold valuable? So it keeps on changing of from when we're children through our adulthood, if we live even up to when we're old. What we hold dear into our hearts, yani the ideas which we hold dear into our hearts, our guiding principles keep on changing. So usually what causes that? It's a very fascinating process that obviously it mirrors the growth of our self-consciousness, yani trying to find how more aware are we of ourselves, what's our end goal. And this is a very good journey. It's all about making sure that your heart is refined to become more better than it was. Hence, that's why people talk about becoming the better version of yourself. And we are directing, or we are moving to our single and ultimate ideal. Yani, what is the highest purpose of fulfillment? Yani, we complete life's purpose. Why are we here in this world? So let us begin the journey in childhood. When a child is born, there are a lot of many instinctive ideas. Yani, the child wants to grab something and put in its mouth. It's aware that it has to survive. Even to the extent that scientists are surprised that when a child is born, it knows where it's supposed to suckle the milk from the mother without being shown. The muscles are the ones that react and suckle the milk from the mother's breast. It is something which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put, and now someone is just a child at that time. So things which motivate us when we're children are hunger, play, and comfort. That's all they think about. And those are the ones that usually disturb us when we are children. We're not thinking about philosophical things, we're not thinking about anything. We're just looking for the next food to eat, the next toy. So by that time, a child is so confused of what's happening around this world. It's like someone who is walking in a market, looking at this stall and looking at that stall, very confused at that time. But as the child is growing, the child comes to realization that I came from parents and they're following some certain ideal. So the child begins to understand and try to understand the parents. What do my parents want? They end up looking for the validation of their parents. This is what the parents says is good. This is what the parents says is bad. This is what the parents says this is the ultimate goal. Huh? It can be maybe your parents taking you to some place of worship and the like. So as the child grows, they know very well that, okay, I used to like a lot of sweets, but my parents says that sweets is bad for you. Because the parents say it, so they end up stopping eating sweets. Or when they were young, they used to be crying a lot, going down, rolling over. But when they realize that their parent, their father or mother does not like that, they start aligning themselves from their instinctive ideal of trying to satisfy their desires to follow what their parents want. But now as the child grows up, maybe they become teenagers or maybe around 12 and 11, then they start experiencing social, yani the circle keeps on growing. They are outside. So their horizon keeps on expanding. So they end up meeting teachers, they end up meeting relatives, they end up meeting friends. So each one leaves an impression. This is what life is all about. This is how life is. This is what life is hopefully to be. And then they end up becoming role models and examples. So at this stage, that's why parents end up being worried that, okay, I used to love my kid, the kid used to listen to me, but all of a sudden there's some outside influence that they end up adopting. Because maybe they might be loving a teacher, or they might be giving time to the ideas of a teacher more. Why? Because the teacher ends up embodying wisdom or even kindness or even some knowledge, which if it was parents, they only used to show love. So the child now starts to experience. So here is the tricky part. As the child now expands his horizon, he has the ideals of the parents, he has ideals of friends, he has ideals of relatives. Now, the child is now experiencing a clash of all these ideas. So, example, a teacher might emphasize that you have to be a very disciplined person. Then when they go out, they find that their friend says that you have to prioritize creativity. So you start having conflict. What your friends used to say is good starts to conflict with what your parents used to say it's good. And each represents a different ideal, it represents a different end goal. And you know, we end up struggling to keep them on air. It's like someone trying to juggle a lot of ideals but choosing which one is more important, afraid that maybe one of them is going to fall down. eh? If one falls down, all these things are going to fall down. Then there's a lot of chaos in life. So now we have now grown older. The world is now conflicting. There are many ideas through the isms: capitalism, communism, there is this ism, feminism, all the isms have now come up. So now it leaves the child confused. Someone who was a child who used to be thinking about being satisfied just by eating food and looking for the next toy now finds that there's something which is much more greater than this world, some philosophical ideas. So the person now is not going to be comfortable because there are too many ideas screaming and saying, choose me, choose me, choose me, choose me. So this is not a what? This is not a bad thing. This inner struggle of trying to choose the right ideal shows how your self has matured. What do you really value? So this inner struggle which we have trying to show, it's a sign of growth. It's not a bad thing. It's a sign of what? It's a sign of growth. It's the single, you have to know that you have to choose the single guiding principle that's going to make you achieve the higher goal. Yani, what's the inner purpose? So because you're struggling, you have to realize that, okay, I have to find a single thing that's going to unify my soul. It's going to reflect all my individual experiences from when I was young up to this time and where I'm going to go at the end of this life. Is there more than this life? So we human beings end up unifying our self to pursue the ultimate beauty, the ultimate justice, the ultimate the ultimate goodness, the ultimate perfection. That's the word I was looking for, the ultimate perfection. And you know, in Islam, we have that the ultimate justice, the ultimate perfection comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as souls. We are living in this world. Now we are trying to seek, we're trying to unify, we're trying to grow and making sure that we go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when we know that everything is going to be unified. Ultimate justice, ultimate goodness is going to be unified when we meet Him. And our soul is now going to experience beauty in its true form in all aspects. And that's what we need. Our soul, when it is satisfied, because it cannot be satisfied here in this world. That's why this world is a stepping stone for the ultimate beauty. And that's meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, the ultimate ideal, which is meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, becomes a compass in this life. Hence, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends guidance, sends prophets, sent the Quran as guidance to show where we're supposed to be heading. There are practical things which you have to do to bring some ideals which will help us, like patience, like love, like brotherhood. All these things are making us realize that we're going to unify our soul, we are going to escape the chaos of this world, whatever is happening, and we're going to unify our soul to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why in Islam we have a concept called an-nafs al-mutma'inna. When we return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after following His guidance, we're going to experience our soul when it is so tranquil. It's not going to be chasing this, it's not going to be worried about the future, because we're going to experience ultimate beauty. The ultimate beauty is going to be experienced when we enter Jannah. That's why you have the concept of paradise. Paradise is everything is beautiful. Our souls are going to be experience ultimate beauty. So we have to know that at the end of the day, From when we are children, we experience with our parents, and we go to the outer world, we experience all these conflicting ideas. It is for our soul to grow. And when our soul grows, experiencing these challenges, knowing that how am I going to make sure that my soul is going to be satisfied, is when we receive the guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, one thing I pray is that we become people of seeking the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, unifying our soul, using this all these worldly things as a means to an end, not an end of itself. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.